What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It 99 with your host, me and Isaiah, and our special guest, Raphy.
Hi,
This
guys.
is episode 2 of the mental health series. And today we're going to talk about a very, very common issue with a lot of people nowadays, that is overthinking. So, Rafi, let's just get started and let's see. How would you define overthinking?
Overthinking to me personally is when you have a simple situation and you think of every single possible outcome, and that overcomplicates it, and that causes it to be overthinking in a sense, because you think of every single scenario, every single result, and you obviously want it to be the best result. If I'm talking to a girl, you go on a date with her, you think of every single possible scenario. Water spills on me, she walks out, she goes to the bathroom, calls her friend to pick her up. You just start overcomplicating it. And I think with overthinking, especially nowadays with the youth, we overcomplicate things that are a little bit too simplified. Kind of like religion. Religion is kind of simplified. We have Sunday school. We have all this stuff around us. We have the church. We have our parents. We have so many scholars and books that we read on a day-to-day basis that we could read. It's so simplified yet it's so complicated. And it's because we overthink it. That's my definition of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that definition 100%. And I feel like one of the main causes for overthinking is really like comparing yourself to others and always like wanting to like look good in front of other people. And I feel like that plays in like a big role into like into overthinking. And when you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you're always like you always want to get the upper hand. Like, for example, like in a friend group, like I always like as a human being, like I always want to feel like loved and like respected. And so if I feel like, you know, my friend group's not really respecting me, I start to compare myself to other people within the group. And I try to be like, oh, but like, see what he did. So let me like try to like one up him for example, like, you know, when I cracks a joke or something because he's funny, you know, I always got to like try and one up him just because I feel like I'm at a loss. And then that causes you to overthink like, oh, so what if I do this, but like, this doesn't happen, like the result you want doesn't happen, or like maybe I should do this instead, and then you start playing all these scenarios in your head, and you just lost, and it leads into bigger and bigger issues. You know, you start falling into like depression, like bigger and more like really serious things than just, you know, overthinking a situation.
I agree 100%. I want to ask a question, but I want to get your definition of what overthinking is.
Overthinking. I think overthinking, like you said, a simple task, and I think making something harder on yourself. That's what overthinking is.
Why are you making it harder on yourself?
Because you're thinking of everything that could happen, like, oh, if I walk down there, the tile could fall, I could fall, I could trip, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it gives you anxiety to do the
That's
simple.
a good word.
To do the
It's a very
simple
good word.
task.
Anxiety is a huge reason why overthinking even exists.
Yeah.
You got social anxiety, you know, anytime you read, like you remember the time when we were in liturgy, we had an informational liturgy, and Mono was there, and I told him to read, and he was like, I told him just to go over the passage, just to go over the reading. He went over it, and when it came down to the wire, he said no, which isn't an issue, but the thing is that's how you see why overthinking happens. It wasn't the reading that was difficult. You could read it, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't hard at all. It wasn't the fact that you don't believe in God. You believe in God. You believe in what you're reading. It's the fact that when you go up there, you might mess up.
And embarrassed.
You're embarrassed from who? The 8-year-olds that are standing there?
Yeah.
And it's okay, though.
Yeah.
It's okay. The thing is, though, embarrassment is the thing. You think Jesus in front of all those people getting slapped and mocked at. It's perfect timing. People getting slapped and mocked at. Jesus being slapped, mocked, whipped, spit on. All his disciples are standing there. Why do you think, and this might go a little bit off topic, but it's still on topic. Why do you think when Peter cut off Jesus, the soldier's ear, Jesus told him that's not the right way to handle the situation? Because it's like a fight or flight reaction, right? When you have anxiety, you either flee or you suck it up and you go do it, right? Peter, on the other hand, saw it to be where his only solution to fixing the problem that was at hand was to defend Jesus. But Jesus did not need defending. Just like in us, we don't need to be so defensive, if that makes sense. The same way Jesus didn't need to be defended, we don't need to be defensive. take chances, go out there, figure out what your goal is. You're 16?
15.
15, wow. 18?
17.
17. I'm 1 year off, literally. And you guys are talking and stressing out like you guys are 30-year-olds. I turned 22 in July. And I'm over here, parents are telling me, yo, please help me with my son. He's addicted to this, and he does this, and he does this. And I'm just like, okay, how old is he? He's like, oh, some 15, some 18, some 19. I'm just like, okay, what gets them to that stage? They're like, I don't know. We give them all the information necessary to help them, and it doesn't work. Okay, like, how do you give the information? Because I feel that's another big thing, especially with overthinking.
Yeah.
Delivering the message.
Exactly. Delivering, how you're delivering it. Like you see with the kids. Every single kid has a different, you ever see me with any kid, I have a different approach with every single kid.
Mm-hmm.
One kid I know I slap all the time, I slap him all the time. Another kid, I have to go with delicacy and I have to, soften it up first. And then once they get comfortable, we're okay. Same thing with like dogs. Dogs are trained. And if they're trained in a specific way, that's the way you are supposed to approach them. If not, they will either attack you or run away. It's that simple.
I mean, yeah, that's true. And I feel like when we talk about things like this, when we talk about like mental health issues, like one of the biggest like concerns that like arises is like, how exactly do we take this and apply it to really apply it to other people? Like, how do we take this and how do we go to like people that need this help? Because like obviously like we're not trained professionals, me and one now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a psychology degree, so you're a little different.
Not yet. I'm learning by experience at this point.
But like, yeah, so like as just just a friend, like trying to be there for your friends, like not just from an overthinking perspective, but in general when it comes to like mental health issues, like how would you suggest or like advise people like to approach like how to approach the people that like really need the help?
Ironically, it's a very simple answer. Step one, and I think you always need this before you give someone an answer or a solution, is that you need to believe that there's a solution. Because if you believe and you give, all the different outcomes, all the different scenarios and solutions, if you give it and you believe it, you will eventually keep trying until you find it. But if you go into it saying, oh, we'll see, you go to whatever, the 20th solution and it doesn't work out, you give up. That's how most people, by the way, fail. Failure is only achieved when you give up. As long as you keep trying, God, this is very embarrassing. I didn't pay attention in school. Who was the guy that made the...
Thomas Edison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
He
knew it. Yeah, Thomas Edison. How many tries did he take?
100.
100. Okay, the 101 try?
Yeah, I think so.
He made the light bulb.
He made the light bulb. Something like that. Supposedly, he didn't even make the light bulb. I saw some, like,
I
conspiracy
saw that
theory.
too.
Yeah. You guys ever watch those TikToks of those guys, like, yo, you watch this one video, like, in a movie, but, like, what it actually meant or something? It's these two Asian dudes.
I don't have TikTok.
The ones that do a podcast?
Yeah, the podcast dudes.
I love those
Those guys
yeah.
are, like, I'm interested in watching them. But anyways, it's kind of as simple as that example. It's like we just truly, genuinely need to keep trying. It's like, the Samaritan woman, she had 5 husbands. The husband she was with now wasn't her husband. It takes as simple as Jesus. And I was actually listening to a sermon about this. It was some Christians, some American Christian church. And the guy was like, I think his name is Jeremy Foster, if you guys know him.
No.
He was saying that Jesus said Jesus rested. So on the journey with his disciples to Samaria, they were passing by Samaria. Jesus and the Samaritans, they weren't, they weren't besties at that time. So Jesus decided, he decided to sit there. He said he was tired. But was he tired because he was taking a break for himself, or was he tired because he was taking a break for the Samaritan woman? That's a pure example of how to genuinely approach a complicated scenario with someone that overthinks. Because the Samaritan woman, her peace time is to probably go get water because no one is talking to her. She's not worried about if this husband's going to leave or not. She's just simply getting water. She has one task at hand. That's it. No overcomplicating anything. You worry about it till you worry about it. We'll reach that bridge when we cross or whatever.
Yeah.
Literally like that. And all Jesus did was show her some type of attention and care and love, which I think is the biggest solution to it, and showing to her that there is a simple solution. Just be honest with yourself. And I feel like that's the important thing with our friends is we sugarcoat a lot of things. depending on who's there or who's listening or who cares, who doesn't care. We always sugarcoat things, but we're not straight up honest. Like, I'll tell you this, for instance, I truly, genuinely like a girl right now. I really, really like her. I was honest with myself and saying, okay, let me go through my Snapchat, let me go through my Instagram, let me go through my text messages. Let me truly, genuinely look through who I give my time to. I give maybe a half day to the most random people I've never met in my life. And it's crazy. So I decided at that time, I'm like, okay, if you truly like someone and you truly care about someone, don't you think it's worth the sacrifice to sacrifice all the unnecessary time wasted and to give it to someone you truly care for? Same thing with your friends. If you truly care about these people, you truly care about your friends. I know we have a specific friend. You have a specific friend. You all have specific friends that we're thinking of right now. Even people at home, y'all have specific friends y'all are thinking of right now. Y'all are probably watching it together. You guys need to figure out with each other and be honest with each other. What is the goal? What is the sacrifice you both are making for your lives? Why are you living? What is the point? Yes, these are a lot of questions that might cause you to overthink, but sometimes in overthinking, it's good and bad. Like, most of the time.
But I also think like having that goal in mind when you enter those types of relationships, or having making those stuff clear, actually like reduces overthinking.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like in friendships and in relationships, like you're always thinking about it's always like you're walking on like a tightrope.
Yeah.
Like, the entire time, because like you don't know do they really think this about me? Do they really like not? And it's like that's like very obvious. Like a lot of people have friends. I know I have a few that like they'll come and ask you like, oh, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? Like constantly, just always ask you, or like, oh, like are you still friends with me? Like, and it's like stuff like that, and you don't like feel like it's like a big deal, and it's honestly just kind of annoying sometimes. But that's a direct result of overthinking.
And do you think the only time they overthink is when they ask you?
No, no, for sure not.
I'm talking about the scenario, because let's say this. I'm like, Isaiah, are you mad at me?
No.
I'm asking you. Just like,
I'm not, no.
Okay, like, Mona, are you mad at me?
No.
Okay, so I can be mad at the fact that his legs were moving and the fact that his body started shaking as soon as he started answering. Maybe because he doesn't want to talk with me or continue the conversation with me about this specific scenario, or it's because he genuinely does say that he's not mad at me. But here's the thing, though. Once I get the answer, I've done my job in knowing what he thinks. That's it. I have to walk away and I have to think about it myself now. Once you start thinking about it by yourself, that's when you start overthinking. And I'll tell you this too. I agree with you 100%. Overthinking is very, very. It's like when you're honest and straightforward in a topic, it does cause overthinking to decrease. But when you have an ignorant person, that's when it causes it to be worse. Because someone that's not retaining your information, that believes that your answer is true, or even knows or doesn't know it, they will still find other resources, other gateways, other doors to try to open up, to try to get their point to overcome yours in a sense. That's just an ego point at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just like to further that, I feel like there's a really like weird balance between like good overthinking and bad overthinking, because obviously you have to think about situations. You have to think about, you have to think before you speak. You can't just say whatever you want. You have to think before you act. You can't just go crazy. So there's a level of thinking that is good, but the term is overthinking. So there's a threshold.
Too much
And I
thinking.
feel like that threshold lies at where anxiety kicks in. Like when you start overthinking is when you start getting anxious about a certain situation or about, a certain thing. Like it's the same, like in order to overthink, you have to be anxious. And so I feel like that's where really that threshold lies. And part of the reason why overthinking is so common is because people are more anxious. And the reason why people are more anxious, we talked about this in the last episode, is that is in my personal opinion solely because of social media. Like 100% because of social media, because you're constantly comparing yourself to others. You're constantly, just aimlessly scrolling away time and like and mental resources away just to look for like that instant like pulse, that instant gratification, and so by just looking for those instances when a time period goes when you don't have that, like when, like, for example, your friend doesn't text you back or she doesn't text you back for a day, all of a sudden you start
4
getting,
minutes ago, like
or yeah,
I never thought that was a real thing, by the way, until I started doing it to a girl I liked, and I was just like, dude, do I wait? Because like I texted her
Yeah.
back, but then she texted me. I'm like, okay, I can't text her too quick. That means I'm really
Exactly.
eager to talk to her. She's gonna be like, oh yeah, this guy really wants me. I could start not wanting to talk to him anymore, or like stuff like that.
yeah, and that's like a direct play from social media. And not only that, it's also when you go into relationships like that and you don't state what the goal is. And I feel like there are dangers in just going out and like saying, this is my goal
Yeah.
with this, like how I want this to go on, like the progression of this relationship. But there comes a point where you have to say it, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in this loop that never ends. You're always going to be thinking about, the next move, and you'll never, come to peace with like, with like your actions or your thoughts.
I 100% agree. Well, no, can you tell me a time in your life where you were overthinking,
Every day.
but like, and then this is why I was going to continue the question, overthinking, but like, it was like done. Like, let's just say, as a simple example, you break up with a girl, but you're still not thinking about her, but thinking of like, how can I still solve it? Even though you already know what happened. You cheated on her. You already know what happened, but how can I still solve it? Not saying that specifically,
Yeah.
but like you find an example correlating to that.
How can I still solve it?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily be like, how can you still solve it? But like something happened and you still like, because like, there's a saying like the past is the past.
Yeah.
Right? I says that all the time. Like whatever happened, move forward. But there's like overthinking, like what Rafi's talking about is like an instance where what happened and you're still thinking about what happened. And you're still thinking of ways that you could have avoided it, but like it doesn't matter because it's gone,
Definitely in school. Like, I don't get something turned in. I'm like thinking about why I didn't do it on the spot. I'm like, why didn't I just do it? Why couldn't I make time for this assignment or for this? Why didn't I make a scheduled time to study over this packet so I didn't have to fail this, or so I didn't get a 0 on an assignment? So that's a really big one for me.
Do you ever regret?
Yeah.
That was going to be my question.
That was gonna be your question.
Do I ever? What do you mean by regret? Like, do something?
Okay, so like what I was going to follow up is like does that result in guilt, which is the same thing as like regret. And the thing about regretting is that I personally believe that regretting is one of the worst things you can ever do to yourself. Because what you do is you take up all this anger you have at yourself, and you store it away, and you just like hold on to it, and you keep on holding on to it, and that guilt leads to bitterness.
But how do you let go of that regret?
So the way how I personally let go of regret is I just forget about it. Literally forget about the situation, move past it, and find things that I can busy myself with that will not remind me of it. And that's very hard. That's not like an easy thing at all.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like what most, people overthink about. Like relationships and friendships. Like, or even like job interviews and stuff like that. Is that like when things don't go as planned, it's so hard for you not to think about what the flaw in the plan was. And a lot of the times there's no flaw in the plan. There's just a flaw in the execution of the plan. And so a lot of times we either overthink about the plan itself or the execution. And the issue with overthinking about the execution is that it's already happened. It's gone. It's finished. Like, you're not going to go back and you can't change the execution. And the issue with overthinking about the plan and being regretful that you even thought of it in the first place is that that's just not human. Like, abandoning something that hasn't even started is just like, no one wants to do that. Because you never know what's going to happen, so you can't bet on yourself knowing that was going to go wrong before it even came to fruition.
No, I agree. If I can add on to that, I think he hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Regret, bro. Regret is the devil's, let's say,
Tango.
the tango?
Sure.
I guess, yeah. I mean, you know how to tango for real?
Huh?
You know how to tango, like the dance?
No.
You don't?
No. I don't even know how to dance.
We can have a
We got to
dance
teach you now.
dance tutorial after this podcasting. You guys, when do you guys think you guys gonna retire real quick?
When are we gonna retire? Yeah,
Yeah.
when are we gonna retire from this? If you stop overthinking, never.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Retire 35.
35. That's pretty young, bro. Regret. In my truly honest opinion, I think regret teaches you that you lack faith. Because you got to think about it this way. In a basketball game, in an NBA game, you decide to be selfish, take the last shot, and you miss it.
Ooh.
Jimmy Butler.
Finals, game 6, you take the last shot, instead of passing it to the open person in the corner, and you miss it. You think that's regret? That he didn't pass it?
I mean, he's gonna have regret. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you Jimmy Butler's
Even
response.
somewhat. Yeah.
I'll
What
give you
did he say?
Jimmy Butler's response to that. He said he took the shot and he will live with it.
Exactly. He will live with it. Some people have that quote unquote Mamba mentality to where they are trusting themselves. They have faith in themselves because they've worked so hard, right? We've worked so hard. Your parents have worked so hard. If we live our lives, and by the way, we're forgetting about the one person who literally sacrificed his life for us. He did all that. 33 years he died on the cross?
Mm-hmm.
He died 33?
Yep.
All that. Preaching, healing, teaching, literally paving a way for us, like God making a way for us in our lives so that when we live, we have a chance. What is the point of the resurrection if you have regret? Resurrection is literally you always having a second chance no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what you've done. Sam Moses the Black, if you were to regret, by the way, Judas Iscariot regretted his decisions. Peter regretted his decisions. Like Isaiah said, the execution is what differentiates
Yeah.
between Peter repenting and Judas taking matters in his own hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with friends, I really need us to remove. The only way you grow in this life, by the way, is by being uncomfortable. If you live your life being comfortable, you're not going anywhere.
That's why I'm on this podcast.
And by the way, I've been proud of you. I promise you, I've seen every single episode. I've watched it from the
Thank you,
0,000 to like the end of the video.
We remember.
And I psychoanalyze everything you do in every single podcast, by the way. But the thing is, though, is like, I'm just really proud of the fact, because I wanted to do it. I talked to the guys like, yo, we should start a podcast. They're like, they didn't give me a response. When I saw you guys starting it, I was really jealous. I was like, bro, I need to go on this Google Docs. I was like the first person. I thought I was the first person to sign up, but I'm like the 800th person that you guys got on.
Listen, Robbie. we had to use your skills for what it's worth.
Oh my gosh, there are no skills, man. I'll tell you this. The biggest thing that I've loved about seeing both of you growing up is the fact that you guys, your perspective, it's kind of like contact lenses. You know, I work at an optometry office. Your lens, your eye, when you put a different lens in it, like a different prescription, you know, the vision either gets worse or better. If you give it a little bit too much power, it'll make things clearer, but it will start to hurt your eye.
Yeah.
If you give it too less of power,
You're not
things are
You're not,
blurry.
Yeah.
And you guys got the right amount of power when you guys grew up past VBS summer camp, like all that, and now you guys are serving. You guys are seeing the literal, like, the clear vision of what we had to suffer through. Not even suffer through, what we had to learn as servants, because there are a lot of things as service that we don't even learn. And by the way, throughout the service too, you overthink, especially my 4th and 5th graders. I overthink half the time and just like, how can I portray this message, or how can I give them this message in the way where they can walk home and actually use it?
And that's the type of overthinking that's like, it's hard, because is it really a bad thing for you to think about how can I really better this person's life? How can I really instill in these kids something that they need, something that, you know, will take them to their next level in their spiritual life and in their life in general.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, like specifically, like when I'm serving, like I try to make that the number one thing I'm thinking about the entire time is what can I do right now to make these kids live a better life later on. And it's always, sorry, it's always, it's so hard for me to always think and like always think about what can I do to really push that through, because, you know, there's a lot of eyes on you as a young servant. There's a lot of people, critiquing you. There's a lot of people giving you good criticism, bad criticism. There's a lot of people just, kind of like shoving you around, like this job, that job. And it's so hard to like take your ideas and like really run with them and really like show like I'm capable of doing these things. And it's that overthinking again that like you're like, do I really take this step? Do I really show that I can do this? Do I really try and show that I have this I have this ability to take this responsibility, or do I just like brush it off because I don't want to like offend anyone?
Yeah.
And so there's always that balance in trying to figure out like, what can I do without overstepping, basically.
Yeah. It's literally like St. Moses the Black. When he had the food, he had the money, he had the power, he had the people that respected him. But this man still went out, looked up at the sun, and it was like, if you're truly the God I worship, all powerful, all like, because the sun's like shining over the whole world, it's providing heat from light years away. If you're truly the God, show me, like give me some mercy, show me that. Overthinking allows questions, and that's when it's a good thing.
Yeah.
When overthinking starts to pinpoint you towards a direction of, destruction and trying to ruin the person in front of you, like you go to a bank, like you think robbers are not overthinking about every single possible scenario? They're
definitely
literally
are.
in the heat of the moment in a bank with guns, with people on the ground, with police sirens outside. You don't think they're overthinking about every single thing? And that's why they have what are they called? The people, the police officers who go inside and it's like a bomb threat or something.
I have no
Negotiators or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
The people who like trying to calm down to diffuse the situation.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing is not diffusing the situation. They're eliminating possible
Outcomes.
thoughts, exactly outcomes that the bomber or the person has, so that they can start to relax. Their body can calm down and they won't like explode the place.
So they have to
lose it.
overthink the negotiators.
They have to think of every single possible scenario. But the thing is, though, they control themselves because they're not the one put in this situation where they're the ones that's going to blow up the place. But they're literally walking into a live bomb. Yes, you're going to overthink. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally how it is. They have to study the psychology. They have to understand the background and how to specifically approach a person, because one wrong move,
It's over.
done. That's it. And that's the same thing with you guys and your friends. One wrong word to your friends,
Trust me, we know.
that's it.
Yeah.
You literally experience,
know.
that's it.
Yeah.
And that's truly my biggest thing, is that when we hear people speak, when we know Baudelaire has a sermon, we know probably exactly the words he's going to mess up on because of the English, the English barrier. Sorry, Abuna, if you're watching this. We know Abuna Elisha, the specific color frame. He has one slide
White black.
with black words, and the other one black with white words. We know this stuff. This is all imprinted in our minds. This is all stuff that we use, that we hold with us in our back pockets. So every week we go to church, we're not out of the loop. We're always prepared. We're always ready. We always want to be ready. And I think that's our biggest issue. Like you said, bro, when you want to go to the gym, you want to make sure your machines are free. Because if your machines are not free, you got to take a step further. You got to talk to someone. Whew, social anxiety to its max right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and that's normal. That's okay. But if you do not figure out a way to be uncomfortable, if you don't figure out a way to be comfortable in uncomfortable scenarios, you're not going to be able to live happily.
I mean, we talked about that. Like, growth only comes in our last episode, I think, or one of the episodes. All we talked about is the only way you can grow as a person is doing uncomfortable things.
100%.
Like, you cannot just go through the motions every day and expect to grow in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's impossible, because we're built as humans. We're built on experiences. We're built to experience things. So in order for us to grow, we have to experience things. We can't just do whatever we normally do.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You ever go to Egypt to your cousins?
Yeah.
You see how they live?
Yeah.
So much more simpler.
It is.
So simple.
Like, I was in Egypt in February and for a wedding, and then we went to visit my family in Malawi, which is Upper Egypt. So very, very, very simplistic life.
Yeah.
And there's a monastery on top of Mountain Sina, actually, There's a big, place of the martyrs.
Yeah.
And in order to get there from Malawi, you have to drive through a ton of villages. And just driving through them, the simplicity that you just see of people's lives, like these people like have achieved like not like, I mean, they probably do overthink, but it's probably to a lot less level because their lives are so simple. Everything is so simple. There's just like you said about like the Samaritan woman, like there's like one task at hand.
Yeah.
They're doing one thing at a time. They're not, answering emails, getting on calls, doing their homework. Like they're not doing all this stuff. They're not editing podcasts. Like they're not doing like any of this stuff, right?
Dude, the shorts is crazy. Supposedly,
Yeah,
the guy gets depressed.
Exploding today. The short today, 1.6K already.
Yeah, thank you guys for the support, for real.
Crazy. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, it's not mine, but I'm supporting them anyways.
Thank you guys. But like the simplicity and just the ease of life.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's the H word? What's the H word that gets you to that simplicity?
Humility.
Humility. Humility is such a key factor. Continue what you were saying though.
Yeah. So and like we went to a church in there, and just everyone's just so calm. There's a different like vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's almost like being out here. Like it's just so calming.
Peaceful.
Like there's nothing.
Very peaceful.
It's very peaceful. Like there's you feel like you're in a different state. You feel different.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but it's like that's just watching the people go their day-to-day lives in such a remote area. It's honestly beautiful because it really shows you the beauty and simplicity of what life really can be when we tune out all the noise, when we put away our phones, when we put away the social media, when we really like sit within ourselves and think about what can I do to be a better person today? What can I do to be 1% better today than I was yesterday?
That's a great point.
Which again, you have to be humble.
Yeah, it's hard though, bro.
Because you can't sit here and be like, I'm the best in the world and then try to be better than that.
Society literally forces you to try as much as possible to be powerful, to be the best. If you want to be a doctor, you have to be the best.
You mentioned last video,
yeah. Yeah, you can't brag about it.
Mm-hmm. You just have to do it.
Yeah, people in humility, especially in humbleness, and one of my favorite saints is Abunioso San Antonio. He's called the Silent Monk. If you guys ever heard of his story,
no.
The thing with him is that he was simple. He's called the Silent Monk. Anyone ever asked him, anyone ever went up to him, they're like, "Esake mak derueti," and they will say in English, it's what time do you have on your watch right now or something, and he'll be like, Nishkurullah. He always say Nishkurullah.
Like, thank God.
Yeah, he always say thank God. You know why people are asking for the time?
Wow.
Because they're anxious. They're worried. There's a person that had to go. He was late for a meeting, and he wanted him to pray for him for that meeting so it can go successful. So he can get the signature. He'll be done. Get the money for it. Abunioso Antonio was just like Nishkurullah. Nishkurullah. What does that mean? He was focused on the timing of heaven. His mentality was simplified to doing the necessary things to live, but live for God. There was a time where he went on a train, and he had the money. The head of the monastery knew this guy was gonna give all his money away, or something. He knew he didn't have money, so he said, "Listen, this is a lot of money right here. Just take it. Use it. If the rest you don't use, bring it back to me." He's on the train. There's a homeless lady sitting right outside the train. She's like, anything, please, just provide whatever you can give. I'll accept anything. He's walking in. They're boarding the train. She walks in. She's going left and right. He looks up to her, takes out the money, gives her. He gives her probably like 50% of what he had. She's like, "Oh, thank you." She kisses. She's like, "Thank you so much." She walks out. She continues going to other people. No one gives her anything. She makes round 2. She looks dead at him.
Cool.
And here's the thing, though. Do you think he knew that he was being mugged by this lady?
Probably not. No.
You don't think so?
Definitely.
I mean,
no.
Personally, I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
Because monks are like in a closed environment. They don't usually go out to see outside world and how the world works. So in my opinion, I don't think he knew he was getting mugged. I think he thought he was helping someone that was in need.
That's a great point. And I see why you say that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of it, though, their spiritual wisdom, because you got to think about it this way. Monks have wisdom.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah.
When she came back, without hesitation, he gave her the rest of the money he had in his pockets. So when it came time for him to pay the ticket, he didn't have any money. So he was kicked off the train. So he got kicked off the train, and just so you know the answer, he did know that he was getting moved. No, but I'd like to hear your perspective of why you think that way. What made you think in that way? Because that's a possible outcome. Overthinking, remember? That's a possible outcome. Instead of just interrupting and knowing the answer, I wanted to hear your perspective. When it came to time for the train to move, the conductor was like, bro, the train's not moving. And they're just like, what do you mean it's not moving? It was literally just on like a second ago. And one of the Christians on board was like, if you put that man back on the train, it'll start moving. So they already onboarded everyone because they're trying to figure out the issue.
Yeah.
As soon as he stepped foot on the train started moving. And as the train started moving, people were running in, trying to get inside. And that shows you when you give, just like a Job, when you give everything you have out in this world to people, God will always protect you and help you in the lowest moments in your life. And I think that's our biggest issue with overthinking, is that we're not putting our trust and faith in God. As simple as it is, but as complicated as it is as well.
That's a beautiful story. And I think we're going to end it on that, just because that was a great way to end the podcast.
Positive note.
I thank you, Raphy.
Thank you,
Raphy. I know you could talk for hours upon hours upon hours. And because of that, we're definitely going to get you another time to talk for more time, so that we can have you multiple times. You know, see, now what we're doing is we're taking you, instead of taking you once, we're going to spread you out now.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, we got to play it smart. You know, we got to keep you waiting a little bit so your desire increases.
Man, that's a whole
Then we spread
playbook
it
set
out.
up.
I do. I'm telling you guys.
We analyze our guests to see
Okay.
who deserves a second
One that hitting me with the
chance.
psychology. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you, Raphy, for being on this.
I really appreciate it. I'm really blessed
No,
and honored
thank
to have
you.
been on
Thank
here.
you guys for watching it. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like.
Subscribe
And
listen to the Spotify.
Listen to the Spotify.
Like
And
the shorts.
episode 3 of the mental health series will be coming out tomorrow. Like when you guys see it tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. See you guys later.
See you guys.